you connected.
Welcome back to the regional developments in Guyana. Opposition parliamentarian Don Hastings Williams is clamoring for Guyana's carbon credits sale to go to indigenous communities 15%. Shamar Allen tells us more.
Opposition Member of Parliament Don Hastings Williams has chastised the government for offering a mere 15% of the carbon credit sale to indigenous communities. Instead, at a rally over the weekend, Hastings Williams, who is also the General Secretary of the People's National Congress Reform PNCR, called for a whopping 85% to be paid to the indigenous communities.
You call indigenous the first peoples, then you should give them 85% of the carbon credits. But you know what? They are only giving us 15% out of the forest money.
Describing herself as a little piece of indigenous woman, the opposition parliamentarian Amerindians and Guyanese deserve better.
Imagine we get billions of dollars from our resources, oil, on top that we receive from gold, diamond, lumber, bauxite, oil. God has blessed each one of us with the money, but are we enjoying the benefits?
Since the announcement of the carbon sale and the percentage in communities, the government has come in for heavy criticism from various sections of society. However, Vice President Dr. Barjagdi said that population size was a key factor in the government's methodology for distributing money earned from Guyana's sale of carbon credits.
This wraps up the lunchtime edition of news as produced by Triple N for today, Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. I have been your presenter, Maxine Entwine, thanking you for joining us.
Triple N News, Northern News Network. The Real FM News team has you covered. First in news, reviews, and interviews.
Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. As usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up the telephone and give us a call. This is Thursday of Ash Wednesday. Thursday after Ash Wednesday. Catholics have their own language in describing these things. You can give us a call. The number to call is 4420175. We speak about anything. Politics, religion, socioeconomic issues, Ash Wednesday, or you too could introduce your own subject. Sometimes, the people like the politics, we kind of very involved, and it's important. Government is the biggest employer in Grenada. And sometimes government forgets that. And I believe the Prime Minister, Dick Mitchell, he's practicing sensational economics. And it's a dangerous thing. Because it's really fire. I take the words of the Minister of Labour and the Attorney General very clearly. I think when she spoke from the heart, and I sense quite a lot of concern in her voice. She said, let us be straight with the people. She talked about serious or irreparable damage to the economy. That must have been a wake-up call for every economist, every businessman, every trade union leader, or everybody in the Grenada and the diaspora who've been following Grenada politics. Serious or irreparable damage to the economy. You're talking about a country over the last 2 decades been to the International Monetary Fund on 3 occasions to try to address its economic challenges. We have gone even far to legislate some level of disciplines. Because it seems we don't have the talent to be disciplined. We have skills, we have minds, but we don't have what it takes to be disciplined. So we had to put it in the law. A new government come in, and it seems to be contracting the economy because they're practicing sensational economics. Now everybody knows when people don't have confidence in anything, they tend to be hesitant, reluctant. No economy needs that. A businessman functions best when he has confidence. He's not hesitant. He takes risk. But we have a situation, the government came into power and they met an economy that's pregnant, harmony, and they start to practice sensational economics. They paid out over $70 million in cash. They pay it out to pensioners. No economist in the right mind going to do that. Based upon the historical facts that Grenadians are reluctant to invest. If a man never take any big risk and he reach the age of 60, 65, it is not likely to take serious big risk. Grenadians like to save. We have a lot of little churches. We don't so sure on God. So we invest a lot of money in the bank. We don't sure. We hesitant. We're reluctant to take risk. That is the reason government is the biggest employer in the country. We have a private sector that is basically a family-based private sector. One generation make it, the next generation blow it out. We hardly have the culture of generational wealth. You don't have to believe me. Go in the town of Grenville, St. Patrick's, any town, and look at successful business based upon your evaluation and see how much children that is business. You have Grenadian young millionaires in Grenada, the children in America, sweeping floors, taking care of the walking dogs. They prefer to do that than to help to continue to propagate the parents' millionaire business down here. Don't believe me? Go in your village and watch all the dons in the community 20 years ago. All the children in America. And if you're not hearing the parents glowing about them, it means that they're not making much progress. So we have a government that come and practicing sensational economics. Shock after shock after shock to the economy. The latest one is the government decides to pay bi-monthly. I think they mean every half a month, 2 weeks. But bi-monthly could also mean every 2 months. And they should be clear on that they intend to pay every 2 weeks or every half of the month. This is not a time you joke. You don't want to give the people the impression that you're paying every 2 months. Because you say bi-monthly. Now, nothing is wrong with paying every bi-monthly. Nothing is wrong with paying every 2 weeks. Nothing is wrong with paying half of the month. Nothing is wrong with that. What is the economic significance of it? Because after a couple of years, everybody going to settle down, and that would be the culture in the country, and you have no serious fallout for it. But in the short term, there are significant consequences for everybody involved. So let us look at the government. The government will continue to shock the economy. It's counterproductive. From the time the government come in power, for the last under a year. I don't know if it's 6, 7, 8 months in power. All they do was to shock the economy. The Prime Minister has been speaking with forked tongue, almost behaving like a glad boy. And that is not good for any economy. Yes, caller, welcome. Okay, so this is one of the issues. The government promised that there is no need for a parallel public service, that everybody in public service will be made permanent. The government doubled back on the action. Worse off, between the financial institution and the people in the lower income group, particularly those that do not have a permanent job. I want to say that government undermine whatever rudimentary confidence that existed between the bank, the credit union, and the financial institution in dealing with people who did not have a permanent job. You don't have to believe me. Ask anybody that working in the bank. Ask anybody that working in the credit union. Ask any serious businessman. Ask the very said politician. But watch them in the eyes when you ask them. If they blink in the line you. Now the financial institution in Grenada do not like people in the lower income group. For economic reasons. They believe these people don't have serious permanent job, and the money they're making, they could hardly live on it, so they don't want to give them loan. In addition to that, they believe that the paperwork involved in negotiating with these people is counterproductive to the bank. But they are, because of tradition, because of precedent, the bank will entertain some people if they show permanence in job, if they show that they are able to, they're always working, and they have some credible level of saving pattern in the bank. So let me give you an example. I like to call Kenny Lalson's name. He's the only man I could jump upon. Let's suppose a worker working with Kenny Lalson as a clerk, and she making $1,000 a month. But she's been working with Kenny Lalson for 7 years. Although she worked in an establishment that she could fire tomorrow, the bank, the credit union, the financial institution would take that as some level of permanency. They would need a job letter from her. And Kenny Lalson would write a job letter and vouch for her. For 7 years, she's working with me, and he's going to add, she's a very good worker. So the bank would give her a loan on that principle. She's not a teacher. She's not a police person. She's not working in a bank. But the bank would consider, if she is working 7 years straight, they would consider that with some level of temporary permanent. In the public service, the unions would call that temporary permanent. What the government did was to destroy that tradition, destroy that precedent, mash up the level of confidence the bank have in individual, although they're not in a permanent job per se, they was working permanently for a significant period of time. The government mashed it up. When the government fired people who were working 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 17 years, the government dilute the significance, the importance of precedent and tradition and temporary permanency in the workplace. What the government did is to put a shock on the economy. So it's extremely difficult for these people to go to the bank now and say, I've been working. Yes, the bank knows that the government is the biggest employer, and they set the template. So if they do that, the private sector would take the lead in it. the private sector will fall. Because there are some people in the private sector. The private sector would like to fire them, but the private sector would be very hesitant, reluctant to fire them because they're working with me long. They're working with me long. So I don't want to fire them. But now that the government start the process, the private sector going to take the bait and do it. And you're going to see more and more people in the private sector losing their jobs. You're going to see the private sector that never talk about contract before introducing contract system in their workplace. And workers will be disadvantaged. You're going to see a private sector that don't want workers work with them, particularly as the skill pattern in the workplace increase. We're in technology. So some old workers have a phobia for technology. They feel it hard, are old already. And you have younger people that are more versed in technology. The private sector would like to sideline these old people and push the younger ones. And give the young ones contract to walk away from the union. The government has facilitated the process. The union was sleeping. When the government decided to fire the workers in marketing board, the union was sleeping. From the time the Prime Minister came in office, he indicated of the disposal of marketing board. That should have left the union on the warpath. Why do I say that? The only source of income for unions in Grenada is the membership dues that are paid. So a union have to be dumb in one ears, blind in one, the next one, to simply tolerate without a struggle losing members. The new entity, whoever that is, would put their workers on track. They would not want to deal with the union. So the union dumb twice. You could dumb once. You shouldn't dumb twice. A lot of great trade union leaders have passed in this country. So these modern day union leaders, you should not ignore history. You shouldn't be very dismissive of the elderly. You should learn from the struggle. Otherwise, you're going to make rudimentary mistakes that is counterproductive to your union, as you did with MNIB. And now the government, as I said, decide to pay bi-monthly. Well, obviously, in addition to shocking the system, the government has to be very careful about the cash flow. All governments in Grenada have had cash flow problem. Way back in the days of Gary, workers used to get paid every last Friday in the month. At one stage, the workers did not get paid the last Friday. They strike the Monday morning. And from then, Gary say, I'm going to pay you the last of the month. So that Christmas, they didn't get me. But you have to be in tongue long to know that. All governments have struggled. This is why sometimes government pay public officers before they pay pensioners, because pensioners can strike. And government also pay monthly officers before they pay fortnightly workers. You don't joke with monthly officers. You can't tame union, you know. Unions are like wild crab. They're untamable. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome.
Morning, Mr. P.
Yes, caller.
Morning, Mr. P. How are you, sir?
Great, man.
I have a message for culture, man. I want to tell culture, man. I know he listens every day. I want to tell him NNP is the most organized party in the Caribbean. When is our convention? We have everything in place. NNP is not like NDC. The ministers don't know the leader background, but all NNP ministers know Dr. Kit. So when time comes, he will know when is our convention. I want to ask Mr. Dick Mitchell, please, don't bring down Grenada to the Gregs. Step down and bring back Kit Mitchell. Let him handle things. He can't handle. And he's not in the trouble. He gone again. So, I know they're listening and they know my voice. Mr. Pierre is the hardest, because I'm not so good on this, but it's the hardest time in all my era that I do business. Give away my stuff because I can't sell it the next day. I have to give it away and I keep losing money right through. I'm going to end up having nothing. Mr. Dick Mitchell, please step down. You can't handle the thing. Your minister's not seen eye to eye. I want to ask them what happened to the programs that they have, the loan they say they're giving small business people. What happened to it? They shut it down. And they're not, they're lying, the minister's lying. When you meet them and you ask them, they're playing, they're going in, they think you mark down him. I watch a minister, he play gun and mark down him. When I talk about the man, I mark down him because the program crashed. To me, they have no more money. I don't know, they know my voice. But I don't care about them. I care about them. And I need Mr. Dick Mitchell to step down. Please, sir.
Okay.
Don't bring Grenada to the Gregs. Mr. P, have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Uncle Gary say, the difficult things we do now, the impossible tomorrow. So perhaps it is better to ask Deacon to remove the Minister of Finance and put somebody else. But if you ask him to step down, he might have to do that tomorrow. But if you ask him, and we could give justification why we should change the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance, based upon his action, although he met a treasury pregnant, he spent 75 million in paying individuals. It would have been better for the economy. And you could ask anybody in the financial institution, if he had paid someone in cash and the rest in bonds over 2-3 period, maybe 5, 6, 7 years. So he quit it from his hand. And he's having challenging now to meet current expenditure. The Minister of Finance is putting too much shock on our economy. Over 1,000 people lost their job. The Minister of Finance doesn't seem to have any respect for good management. Because yes, he's traveling like a hostess or behaving like a glad boy. The government seems to be hostile towards the people in the lower income group, the elderly, the marginalized, the disadvantaged children, and the imani. Under any other circumstances, the Prime Minister of a country would have moved the Minister of Finance. So I agree with you, but I appeal to the government, the Prime Minister and the government of Grenada, move the Minister of Finance. Grenada had a loan amount of money, I don't think it was a loan, whatever, that they had to defend. The money is provided for you. You did not spend it in the stipulation time. I believe they had a couple months ago, but they inform you that you must start to spend the money. Grenada had to go and defend an extension of the money. The Prime Minister snubbed. They snubbed the group. They send low-rank representation. So let me give you an example. You who call me songs as an adult. So let us suppose you was discussing a serious financial issue with your neighbor. Where you stand to benefit if the financial deal go through. And you send your little primary school child to talk with your neighbor going to believe you insult them. You call that a snub. You snub the neighbor. That is what Deacon Mitchell did to the financial institution. He was the Minister of Finance, the permanent secretary. They ought to go. They should have even called Timothy and Twine, because he's a recognized, reputable name from a powerful institution in the Caribbean to assist them in presentation. He might have even known the individuals involved in the loan. They should have called Mia Motley, because I believe they had to go to Barbados, I believe. And once a prime minister go to another country, it's only basic common courtesy and protocol you make a courtesy call on the prime minister in the country. Because this individual in politics long, they may have some clout with the financial institution and they would have helped you. So he snubbed the people. And that is the challenge we have in Grenada. It's not only a lack of institutional knowledge. It's not only the fact that they are political virgins. It's not only the fact that they are delinquent and arrogant. It is compounded by the hostility towards the marginalized and a level of disrespect. The Prime Minister went into the United Nations and chastised everybody for the treatment of Haiti. And when he had an opportunity to lead, one of my friends said, leadership by avoidance. Anytime a little challenge come, leadership by avoidance country. He sent back the people in Haiti. Some of these social media warriors and politicos say he did not send them back. But the people's final destination was Grenada. So just put two and two. You must put logics. When you reason, logic must come in. The final destination was Grenada. And Haiti have a special regards for Grenada. Because once you go to school in Haiti, you would have known about Henry Christophe. The first king in Haiti was a Grenadian. He was born in Sans Souci. And one of the important structures in Haiti is named after Sans Souci. So maybe Deacon Mitchell did not know that. Because you see, every time the National Democrats lose election, they want to blame somebody. They never do a post-mortem and see where they're wrong. They blame somebody. In 1990, they had this opportunity in this country. The economy was in trouble. So the National Democratic Congress fired workers on the estate and cut social program to fix the economy. In 2008, the National Democratic Congress promised to give the Imani $1,000. They promised to give the elderly people $450. They use an elderly man to advertise. And instead they fire some people from the program. In 2022, the National Democratic Congress under Deacon Mitchell promised to give $650. Instead that they remove $150. They promised to make everybody. Prime Minister Keith Mitchell then said, make everybody permanent. If you don't know, they say you're wicked. Deacon Mitchell said no parallel public service. This was the words of a stalwart public officer, Cornwall. No parallel service. There is no need. There's no need for a parallel service. We will make everybody permanent. And what he did, he fired over 1,000 people already. And his social media warriors, is crying and begging him, fire more, get rid of all of them. So I think he's running on sensational economics. And I'm very much afraid that we're going to cause serious, irreparable damage to the economy. What would happen when we do that? One, Grenadians will have to pay more tax. There'll be taxes on pension. There'll be taxes on NIS pension. Government going to drop the tax threshold. So right now, the tax threshold is $3,000. So the majority of people in Grenada is not paying personal income tax. They're going to drop the tax threshold. The government could drop the tax threshold to about $1,000 or $1,200. I think it's either St. Lucia or St. Vincent is $1,200. Grenada is $3,000. They will have to cut social program. If you believe the conditions of the roads are bad now, imagine when we have to go to the International Monetary Fund on our knees. The Prime Minister snubbed the IMF. And it seems to me, I tremble, I'm afraid to say that. But based upon the information that is coming out, it seems to me that he's also snubbing the Cuban medical professionals in Grenada. I saw NNP screaming out, Dr. Maricho, Peter David, other people expressing concern. I've not heard or seen one Twitter from the 9 members of the NNP. In fact, the Prime Minister's face remained the same way he was when playing jab. So I believe that he is involved in sensational economics, and he is snubbing institutions and countries that he may have to pay dearly for. But on the question of bi-monthly payment, the government have to be careful with the cash flow. Because when you don't pay public officers, they don't strike. Public officers don't joke. When you don't pay them, they strike. They don't work in it. Sometimes they don't declare the strike, but they strike. And if you have to pay them twice a month, and you have problem with cash flow, instead of striking once a month, they might be striking bi-monthly. What is the impact for workers? In the short term and medium term, when you get accustomed with it, you'll make no difference. In the short term, workers would have to pay the financial institution, the bank, by the fortnight. No financial institution would not want you to get money by the month. Get money by the fortnight or bi-monthly and pay your loan by the month. So you're going to find the higher purchase facilities, the shops in the community, all of them going to change the situation. You don't work in by the month, pay me by the fortnight. That could be a challenge. The interest rate in the bank, because that might change to fortnightly. Rent, the rent you're paying on your house, people is going to stop charging you rent by the month and charge you rent bi-monthly. If you have to rent any property, apartment, or you have to do any higher purchase, people is going to demand the money fortnightly. As I said, nothing is wrong with that. But in the medium term and short term, it could cause serious inconvenience as people adjust. NIS would demand money fortnightly. Women had to get money from hot man. God help them. Women had to get money from hot man. God help them. Because sometimes you take a long time during the month. Some women might get money all in the month. Some might get in the middle of the month. And some might get in the end of the month. Now, all of them know the man working by fortnight. So you could have some serious problem. The court is going to charge you for child maintenance bi-monthly. That's why I tell you the Prime Minister is involved in sensational economics. If he had to make this change, he could have made that change gradually so you don't shock the system. You already have some people working in the agriculture sector that get paid by the week. Some people are working in businesses and with government getting paid by the fortnight. So the Prime Minister could have introduced it slowly, without trauma, without gallivanting, without glad boy attitude. He's shocking the system. And he's causing serious change in the entire financial institution. And you're creating a shock and unnecessary stress on an economy that is already stressed out. This is why I call these people political virgins. And if you want to operate on 42nd Street, Young Street, or Tiger Bay as a virgin, you might either give it away cheap or ravish. And when that happens in the context of the economy, you could have serious or irreparable damage to our economy that is already stressed out because you took 75 million of your liquidity and give to a group of people that is not likely to invest it. They will leave it there to buy a coffin big like Hilton Hotel. Some of the children in America are going to take them up and put them in a home. And very little of that money will circulate in the economy. You're dealing with an economy already that have serious liquidity. Economy, the financial institutions are extremely liquid. So it is not necessary to pump further liquidity in the financial institution. But if you take political virgins, delinquents, and you put in serious issue when they have such gross disrespect for the elders that the elders cannot counsel them, you're likely to have serious or irreparable damage to your economy. If you can talk or say, you might have to bend over it. And while you're doing that, the Prime Minister is flying plane as if he's a air hostess. All sorts of glad boy attitude. And he seems not to be aware of the consequences. It could have serious consequences in the short term. You could have made the change over without all this drama. New people employed in the system, you pay them by the fortnight. And you do it gradually, so it's able to phase in easily. But the Prime Minister of Grenada, because of his sensational economic policy, could further traumatize the economy. And you know what is hard? You know what is sad? We have one amount of people with a briefcase or certificate that like to walk around and play them in stocky cock. Stand up and watching without uttering one advice to the Prime Minister. Even if he can hear, sometimes you have to take a big stone and pound the heart to make it softer. I believe, and I said before very early, the Bar Association could do that. Because the Prime Minister is a lawyer, and he was sold to the general public as a man with deep pockets and plenty contact. It must be in the legal fraternity that he have this contact. But John Gall tell me, I'm wasting my time. He said every time there is a disaster, lawyers make plenty money. He said every time there is a conflict, lawyers make plenty money. So he said lawyers thrive best when this country end up in hardship. So they would not help. But you know, I still say, well, if Saul could have changed on the Damascus Road and turned Paul, I still have hope for Deacon. And I believe that everybody must try, because it's not about Deacon, it's about Grenada economy. It's not about the trade union leadership, it's about the economy of Grenada. Every time we have a serious economic challenge, the people who are affected most is the people in the lower income group, the workers. And by government-owned tax measure, anybody who working for $3,000 or lower is in the lower income group in Grenada. You are marginalized. You are vulnerable. Let me repeat that. Anybody who making $3,000 or less. You have teachers that making $3,000 less or less. You have nurses. You have policemen. You have prison officers that is making $3,000 or less. So they're not paying personal income tax. So they're vulnerable. They will want to pretend to you that them is done because they have a car. Sometimes they have a car, they can't put gas in it. They're vulnerable. But in Grenada, we have the attitude of status jobs. So you cannot play in our hand to be very dismissive of our own brothers and sisters because they don't know how much money we're working for. Next time, ask them how much money they're making. And if they're hiding, they're making $3,000 a annum. Ask them. And you could give me a call. The number to call is 442-0175. Remember, we make no rules in this game, and we encourage you to call and express yourself. I am concerned of the impact of the government changing the method in which they pay without you do it more slowly, without all this drama. Imagine the government call a consultation among workers and they expect it to last 1 hour. That consultation is a sham. It's the same way they did the farmers. They tricked the farmers. They deceived the farmers. They made the decision to close down marketing board. And I wouldn't be surprised when we speak about it, they decide to call a consultation meeting. And they had, I think, 2 or 3, and then they implemented. It was a sham. Marketing board had 18 million in assets and 15 million in debt. And marketing board has been mined or subsidized by government. Marketing board could fix without closing down. They have 18 million in assets. They have 15 million in debt. But marketing board was used as a means of supplementing or providing assistance for the farmers. Just as how you have the extension service in Grenada. Farmers don't pay for extension service. Government provides extension service. Government send and train them from Timbuktu, Trinidad to China to Taiwan to South Africa. Well-trained individuals. And government pay them. Government provide traveling allowance and give them concession to buy vehicles so that they could reach the farmer and provide technical assistance and support for the farmers. In the same way, government subsidized agriculture. So marketing board was used to subsidize agriculture. So you could change marketing board without getting rid of it. But it's something in the DNA of the National Democratic Congress. Every time they come in power, they sell assets. In 2008, they sold 13 pieces of property. It's the only government I believe in the whole Caribbean that sell property that did not belong to them. They sell property that they was not legally authorized to sell. They still sell it. You know when a man take his wife's stove and go and sell it? And not hid her by the stove, you know. She brother had give her the stove. He sell the stove. The National Democratic Congress did that. And in the budget, they write down in the budget. I don't know if write down is a good word. They listed in the budget sale of assets. So they're going to sell marketing board. Not because marketing board can fix. Marketing board could be fixed. Because all and sundry in Grenada says marketing board is a management problem. But also, marketing board have to help the farmers. So you tell a man, make profit but help the farmers. Make profit but help the farmers. Buy the farmers good but help the farmers. Instead of marketing board, could, if it's a private man, you buy goods from one big farmer. So you'll get a better deal rather than 20 small farmers. But marketing board will refuse to buy 5,000 pounds of, let's say, planting from one farmer. He said, I'll buy 2,000 from you and I'll buy 100 pounds from all these other farmers to give them a blight. That isn't a commercial house. That is a facility set up to subsidize. So if you want to change the strategy, tell them, run straight like a commercial house. Buy from one farmer. And if you bringing it down in town, you don't need no transportation costs. You didn't make them do that. So your policy have to change and your strategy. And you don't need to bring anybody from outside to change marketing board, you know. One of the challenges we have in Grenada, we don't have confidence in ourselves. The Ministry of Finance set up 4 or 5 individuals in Ministry of Finance as troubleshooters. Set them up as troubleshooters, establish a troubleshooting team in finance. And send 2 or 3 of them go and look at marketing board every now and then. In 1 year, they're going to go and visit it and see the challenges and make the next recommend. And don't pay them more money. Just tell them you don't pay them more money. That is part of the responsibility. To troubleshoot. Why? Simple. The government is the biggest employer in the country. The business we have in Grenada is family business. They don't expand much. And when the original get incapacitated or die, either the business seller is done. Because we don't have a culture of generational wealth, support, and continuity. And you could give me a call. The number to call is 4420175. And while on it, the people who are interested to know, and I think some people do, Miss Jacob is in good shape. We visited her in the mission of charity. She was in good spirit. She spoke to us. She said she was all right, and etc. And if you want to make any contribution to that home, you can call the people directly and give them, or you can call Real FM and we'll help to facilitate the process. But all those who call, I know people inquired about Miss Jacob, she's in good shape. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yes,
Mr.
yes, my brother.
Mr. You know, I'm just looking at something, right? Like John James always fighting against poor people, right? And John James get into politics, and John James was made the Minister of Finance. The same thing he used to do when he was a private man outside there. He like the same thing John James doing, because he's the poor people that he pressured. He's supposed to, so you see, so he come in, John James come in with that, and we pressuring, and I'll be fighting against the poor people. And look at the trend. It's the same thing, Minister of Finance, is what he doing to the poor people. While he giving more to the rich, advocating lives. So I want to say is I do believe that, Mr. Pierre, when someone do like poor people and the less fortunate, like the they have get bigger. The only you can get them to do begin which way or do rich, and when they get them to do what they want them to do, it just turn it back on them and pressure the same people who put you in the position you are in presently. So that's my piece.
Thank you, Color. Sometimes it's very difficult for me to talk about rich and poor in Grenada. It's sometimes very, very difficult. Because I know for a fact that Grenada don't have much rich people. And the people who are in a better position, I know how hard they work. But in reality, we have lower income group. What happened to us in politics in Grenada? Normally we choose a leader of a party and other people jump on the bandwagon. And we expect the leader to carry the whole party. And in a lot of sense, that is what happened to the political parties. You have a leader, and the individuals in the party don't want to work as the leader. They're not taking the advice of the leader. And we have not scrutinized them enough to know if what they stand for is part of the philosophy of the political party. We have been very lucky in Grenada that we have had two leaders over the period of time, Eric Matthew Gary and Keith Mitchell, whose main interest was to raise the bar, to raise the standard of the marginalized. Both of them came from that plateau, that area, that strata. And they was very successful. Eric Gay was extremely successful in politics. In his era, he was the first who started the template. So when we attack him for his excesses, and his mistakes, they want him to compete. And then we had the revolution. And then we had Keith Mitchell over the period of time who have been very successful. Too much of us stood on the side and was not objective. So I believe some of the cries against Keith Mitchell is because of what I call simply political jealousy. He was successful and they were not. When the National Democratic Congress come in power, they behave so badly that they lose for two terms. And instead of doing a good post-mortem, they blame everybody for themselves and they come back with a vengeance. And today, the NDC you have here is a radical militant group without a philosophy. Look at their foreign affairs. Deacon Mitchell don't know what his foreign affairs policy is. It seems that he wants to snub Cuba. It seems he wants to embrace CIB program. It seems he wants to hug up all the prime ministers in the Caribbean. But when it comes, he's not even appealing to them. Look at how he speaks in the United Nations and arouse the interest and the fire, and people say a new bishop come. And then he want to sell marketing board and he shun the Haitians. So we have sensational economics as the closest thing I could believe to the economic policies, the macroeconomic policy of the NDC. And we have a glad boy leading it. And I believe it will be a disaster. Unless you have some intervention by the moderates who maybe could reach Deacon and cause a change on the road, on the Damascus road. Otherwise, we'll be heading back into the jaws of the International Monetary Fund on our knees. On our knees. Because we are very dismissive of the International Monetary Fund, the Caribbean Development Bank. We're dismissive of them. So we'll go back on our knees. The individuals in the Ministry of Finance that was involved in all the negotiation, they will have to hang their head low if they happen to be part of the negotiation again. That is a challenge. And all of us in Grenada, every one of us, will be responsible. We buy a cat in a bag. The cat scratching old people and he eating children food, but he not holding rat. We either train the cat or get an next cat to hold rat. Remember, Chester Humphrey is going to tell you, Grenada is not about ideology. Look at China. China have state-sponsored capitalism. Look at Russia. Is no longer is expansionism. Is not about communism or capitalism. And they consider Joe Biden as a left wing. So we in Grenada have to be preoccupied in making decisions that serves our economic interests. And I don't think Dick Mitchell has the capability, the history, unless Jesus Christ changed him on the Damascus road. I believe we're in trouble. You know, we're in big trouble. But this time is Lenten period, and who knows? Maybe we could have sackcloth. We could do some penance. We could pray. We could give alms, and we could hope for the best. Because no one in this country, I don't think, want the NDC to do badly. If the NDC do badly, everybody in real trouble. So we hope that they would, the NDC have to move away from the militant group. They don't have no sense. They just want to see some green blood shed. That's all they want. So I do hope Dick Mitchell perhaps would get a rude awakening on the Damascus road, or one of the prime ministers from the Caribbean would be asking him to behave himself, stop flying around so much. He look good. The girls and him like him. The boys like him too. Not to worry about look. You are the prime minister of Grenada, and try to behave yourself. And if he's not behaving, Tevin Andrew in Carriacou is not behaving too. Because he wants to rule Carriacou while Dick Mitchell rule Grenada. So if Dick not behaving, Tevin not behaving too. And this is a serious challenge for us. We don't want to be laughable in the Caribbean. Grenada normally takes some leading role. But now we have to encourage Caribbean, the small countries in the Caribbean, do not make the mistakes we make and choose all these juveniles without no experience and very little respect for the elders in their own party. They say, choppy on them. The elders in their own party, they say, choppy on them. They say, give them armchair. That is gross disrespect. And we are concerned about the hostility of the government towards the elderly in Grenada, the physically challenged and the marginalized. We do hope they would have a turnaround and start by giving back the people the $150 that they take from them practically with violence, because they told them they will get it in December and they take it from them without notice. And some of them shed the tears, and some Romans go and drink rum with what they get. They get so vexed they drink rum. And a few shed tears. And I consider that as a violent action. So I do hope they will give them back the money, and that might be the turning point in the sanity of this that is leading Grenada. And I'm afraid, based upon the sayings and the utterances of the Minister of Labor, the Attorney General, we have to be straight to our people. Otherwise, we could cause serious or irreparable damage to the economy. And anytime you reach that stage, you have to go back to the International Monetary Fund. And you're going to do that on your knees. Unless you go to the Chinese. The Chinese don't interfere with your confusion. They don't care about your politics. They don't care about your sorrows or your joy. They hardly watch you in your eyes. And the Chinese come for 1,000 years in the first instance. And they mind their business. So maybe if you cannot take the measures that the International Monetary Fund would offer you, you will have to bend the way in front of the Chinese, and you will have only yourself to blame. So we do hope that we come to some reality, and we beg, or we back with you again tomorrow. Today is Thursday. It is the last day of our program On Target. But tomorrow we have the extension with Master Carl. I'll be joining Master Carl on the extension. We want to thank you very much. We encourage you to share our program, like our program, and subscribe to Real FM. Thank you very much.